So first off, this video is going to be a little bit different than the rest. I was able to get a copy of the new Command Modern Operations game. I'm a huge fan of the original. According to Steam, I have over 2,000 hours in that game. This is not a sponsored video. I did put that disclaimer down in the bottom because I did get a copy of the game and I just want to make sure I'm covered from a legal standpoint, but they are not paying me for this video. So the video is going to be part review and part using the game to show different tactics that are used. First off, if you played the original game, you're going to have a very easy time jumping into this one. All the controls are the same, the keyboard shortcuts, the way you do things, etc. Also, if you have played the game before, you know one of the coolest things about the game is the database. Now, of those 2,000 hours, I say I've spent a pretty large portion of that just looking through this database. They have every aircraft, every submarine, every ship, every tank, land vehicle, surface-to-air missile system, and then all the weapons that each one of those have. So for example, if we looked up the Patriot, right now I'm under weapons, so it'll show me the actual weapon. I can find the PAC-2 gem. It'll have a whole description about it. It'll talk about the range of it, so 2 to 55 nautical miles. The probability of hit, so it has a 90% base probability of hit. Now that number will decrease if the target is maneuvering or faster or has different properties. It'll talk about its data links, different capabilities, targets it can hit, for example aircraft, helicopters, missiles, and guided bombs. Also up here it'll show you the target altitude. So it's saying between 30 feet to 80,000 feet. That means anything flying below 30 feet it's not going to be able to hit. Anything above 80,000 feet it's not going to be able to hit. Also the target speed, 0 to 6,500 knots. So anything flying faster than that it's not going to be able to shoot down. 6,500 knots is pretty high. For the most part, the only thing it really can't engage would be long-range ballistic missiles. And again, all this is according to open source information. It's going to be pretty much the most accurate information out there that you can get that is not classified. And then the cool thing is too, when you're on a weapon, you can then see what platforms can carry that weapon. The only thing that carries a Patriot missile is going to be a Patriot battery. And then you can click on that and you can look through the actual Patriot battery. You can see this one, for example, has 6 tells, each one carrying 4 missiles. Also in that battery will be the radar. But this thing is just a lot of fun just to spend time looking through. Here, for example, you could look up any submarine, like the Russian Lada class. It'll have a list of every sensor, radars, sonars, everything. Its range, its capability, the different weapons it can carry, its signatures, which will be, for example, radar cross-section, which doesn't necessarily play too much into a submarine, but it'll have its active and passive sonar range, visual range, infrared range, from front, side, and rear. So where this may come more into play would be if we look at the F-35s. So also a lot of the systems do have pictures, which is kind of cool. But again, you can scroll through, it has all the attributes here. But the most interesting thing here would be the radar cross-section. And you can see the game breaks it down to make it more simple for background calculations. So A through D band, the lower frequency radar, its radar cross-section would be 0.012 square meters. And then the higher frequency, it's 10 times less. So if you actually wanted to go in and do all the calculations with the fourth root calculator, you can actually find out the detection distance. So we can switch over to a radar here, like the Big Bird. And it will tell you on here, obviously it's a radar, so its main sensor will be a radar. And then it says operating bands F. But when you notice here, I'm up in the editor mode. Now, the editor mode is a lot of fun. Technically, it's cheating, but it's a lot of fun because you can put in any units you want. You can add different weapons. You can take away different things. You can make it more difficult, less difficult. You can battle any 2 types of units you want against each other. I probably spend half the time playing in editor mode. The other half of the time I'll play actually playing the game as it's more meant to be played. So I'll set up a real quick one here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to test the detection range and how it varies versus a stealth versus a non-stealth aircraft. So if I give the red side a radar, make it auto-detectable so that I can see it, and then add in, say, 4th generation Super Hornet and the stealthy F-35. And we can have both of these fly directly at the radar, see which one it picks up first, and the difference between the 2 detection ranges. So you can see here, I'll pause it. It did pick up the first aircraft. We could cheat here, and you'll see it's the Super Hornet. which makes sense as it's not stealthy. Also in the game, when you click on it here, it'll show you what unit detected it. So this contact was detected by the Big Bird 4 seconds ago. And you'll notice as I play through it, it'll pick it up for 10 seconds, and then it'll lose contact again with it. The reason for this is the game is actually calculating this radar spinning around. So when it's not pointed south in the direction of this contact, it's not seeing it. So the game is pretty much saying it takes 10 seconds for this radar to completely rotate. Once it points in the right direction, it's seeing it again. And it's rotating, losing track of it, and so on and so forth. Now we can fast forward it further to see when it will pick up the F-35. And there we go here, it finally picked it up, at a much shorter range than the Super Hornet. That Super Hornet it was able to pick up at over 200 nautical miles, whereas the F-35, it says over here 41.5 nautical miles. So that helps to give you a better understanding of stealth. There's a lot of people who believe stealth means an object is invisible. It's not, it's just that its detection range is much shorter than a non-stealth aircraft. And we can actually go into the database viewer and actually see the radar cross-section of the Super Hornet and compare it to what we know the F-35 was 0.012 square meters. So here in the game, it's saying for the same A to D band, the Super Hornet is 3.1 square meters, so significantly larger. Another thing, kind of going back to a review of the game, is they added a couple new features. So one here is being able to see satellite imagery. Now they use this from the Sentinel-2 European imagery satellite. It's not quite as good as what you would see on Google Earth, say, but it is free, so you really can't complain. It usually has good enough resolution to make out different buildings or streets, but not much more than that. So this is a cool improvement over the last game. I feel like it makes it more immersive. You actually so you can actually see where units are in relation to other objects. The one mode I like to use though is the relief layer. Now it's not quite as fancy or as good looking, but it really gives you a good idea of terrain. And this is really helpful when you're planning an attack. So if we set up another short scenario, this time we'll do Iran with an S-300, and we'll show how you can actually use the terrain, which is done in real life, to attack this site. And then we'll give the US an Arleigh Burke class destroyer and try to attack it with Tomahawks. So you can see right away that to the northwest of it there are several hills. Now you can use this to your advantage and actually fly behind them so the S-300 cannot see the weapons, hopefully until it's too late. Another really interesting tool that they added into the game is called the line of sight tool. And this is really useful for actually seeing what the S-300 or any object can see. For example, here you can set up the target altitude, 10 meters, which is about the altitude a Tomahawk would fly at. And you can see the blue area here is what it'll be able to see. Obviously, right up in this area, it's not highlighted blue because this hill is blocking its view. So then you could plan a flight path accordingly. And I'll fast forward a little bit to see if this works. So the other cool thing about this game is when you're in the editor mode, you can switch back and forth to different sides. I could switch over to the Iranian side. You can see what they can see. So obviously right now, it cannot see those Tomahawks, which we know are right here. I can go into the God view, see they're here and select it, then take it off. So at least I have an idea of where it is. And then we can wait and see when this S-300 will actually pick them up. And this is the problem with land-based air defense. Russia and China have some pretty advanced, highly capable systems. But the problem is, since they're on the ground, they don't have a great view of the area around them. So you can see here it actually did pick it up. And then again here you can see how it says multiple seconds here, which means it lost contact on them again. So again, right now they're flying right over the hill. It still can't pick them up yet. As it gets over the hill, they're going to start shooting at it. We'll see if it's too late though, if they're going to be able to shoot them all down before they hit. Wow, so one got through. And then again, the cool thing in the game is you can actually look at the damage. They have a very detailed breakdown of all this. So it looks like that one Tomahawk only destroyed one TEL. It still has several other operational. It did not hit the radars. So this thing actually will still be working. So the other feature they added to the game, which I think a lot of people are really looking forward to, is the 3D view. Now the 3D view is done through TacView. If you don't know what that is, it's a third-party program. People use it for DCS, several other games as well. The one downside to it though is you do have to pay for it. But to showcase that, first maybe I'll set up a scenario with a couple aircraft fighting each other. and then we can watch the battle play out. So you can see here, I can see from the Super Hornet point of view, or from the Su-35 I put in. And right now, I'm guessing the Super Hornet's going to win this one, simply because it has a longer range weapon. So you can see they launched off a couple AMRAAMs, and there goes a couple R-27s, and it's going to try to evade. And it got hit. So another example of this could be a naval battle. The one awesome thing about the TAC view here is they seem to have 3D models of most objects. Like if you look here, for example, I mean, this is an actual model of a Ticonderoga. And then same thing here with the Slavic class, which is pretty cool. So now let's see if the Ticonderoga can defend itself against a whole host of anti-ship missiles from the Slava. So that's a cool thing. You'll actually watch them launch off up here into the air. Now the thing with the P-1000, it's the new anti-ship missile they are putting on the newer Slavic-class ships that they are overhauling, is that they're really fast missiles, but they fly real up high into the air. And what that means is that the target is going to be able to detect these and pick them up quicker. So let's see if it can shoot these down. So here it's firing a couple SM-6 missiles. Nice. So the SM-6s were able to shoot down all the weapons. Now let's contrast that high flying altitude with the sea skimming Harpoon anti-ship missile. Now this weapon is slower, but it's sea skimming, so that means it will not be able to be picked up on radar or visually until much later, until it's over the horizon. And you can actually see how low these fly right over the surface of the water. So you can see over here on the right hand side, it still has not picked up these missiles yet. It does not know they're coming. There we go, it finally picked them up. So again, you can go back to this, you can click on it, and you can see the information over here, specifically what sensor on that ship picked it up as well. So it picked them up around 16, 17 nautical miles maximum, so much shorter range than the previous P-1000 missiles that were fired at the Ticonderoga. So theoretically, because the detection distance was shorter, it will have less time to defend itself. However, these Harpoon anti-ship missiles are subsonic. They fly a lot slower than those P-1000, which means it will have a little bit more time to defend against them. There we go, it's starting to fire some missiles at it to shoot them down. And finally finished that last one off there with a Sea Whiz, a close-in weapon system. So that's a really cool feature of the game, that 3D view. Also, another cool thing you could do is you can import real-world locations, like air bases, surface-to-air missile sites, and more. For example, here I'm going to import the ring of surface-to-air missile systems that surround Moscow. Now you can have tons of fun with this, trying to attack these with different weapons. It's an extremely difficult shield to penetrate, as it's full with modern S-300 and S-400 systems. For example, here I'll try to fly in with a B-2 stealth bomber. Now even though this is one of the most stealthy aircraft in the entire world, it's almost certain to get shot down before it reaches Moscow. I'll switch over to the Russian side so you can see when exactly it does detect the B-2. So there we go, it did pick it up. It is kind of slipping in and out of radar here. Really right now they do have a good enough track to shoot it down. The only reason they haven't yet is because they have not quite yet identified it as a hostile aircraft. Now if I were to switch it over and mark it as hostile, it's going to get shot down right away. So anyway, there's tons of fun you can have setting up different scenarios, ship versus different ships, aircraft versus different aircraft, or any combination of them, aircraft attacking ships or ships trying to shoot down aircraft, trying to sink them. It's a lot of fun testing out different things. And that 3D view really adds a lot to it. Now this is not a fast-paced game. It's a game to be played much slower, much more strategically than others. So taking the time to actually plan out your flight paths or the path of missiles is extremely important. Using that 3D tool and that line of sight tool can really help. Since playing the game, I have seen there are a few bugs. However, I do have a beta version of the game, so a lot of those may have been sorted out since. Also, if it's anything like the original game, they're really quick to actually fix these. They're always issuing updates, fixing bugs, and adding new features. Other cons to the game is, like I said, you have to pay for TAC view. That is a little bit annoying. Also, in the notes I have here from the game developer, it says you have to have TAC view advanced, which is 2 or 3 times more money than the standard TAC view. However, I just purchased a standard TAC view, and it does work fine. Now again, I'm not sure if that's because I have a beta version of the game. It might be different with the alpha version. However, the nice thing about TAC view is if you purchase a standard version, you can always upgrade for a lower price to the advanced version. Another con is that the game has a pretty steep learning curve. I've been playing the game for years now, and I'm still actually learning new things. One good thing though is, compared to when I first got the game, they have added a whole host of different tutorials. When I first got the game there was only 3 tutorials. Now they have at least a dozen tutorials. Everything from air combat, to air to surface combat, submarine combat, ship combat, and it really teaches you how to do everything. Also, the game actually only comes with about a dozen scenarios. However, there's a huge community out there that is constantly developing new scenarios. In fact, there's a community pack with over 600 scenarios that I believe are all going to be ported over from the original game into this one. So between those and making your own scenarios, you'll really never run out of things to do. At least I haven't yet. Also, they say here, if you played the original game, any DLCs that you purchased in that game will be available in this one. You can see I did purchase Chains of War before, and Desert Storm, both are available in this version. And finally, for those who made it this far in the video, I thank you. I know it's not my normal type of video, so for you, the developer did give me a few game codes that I could hand out for free. I'll give a couple to the people on the YouTube comments and maybe a couple on Discord. Maybe just write in the comments that you want the game, tell me that you'll play it, because I want to give it to someone who will actually really make use of it, and I'll pick a few people to give it out to. And that's it for this video. I promise this is not going to be a normal thing with me. This is just a game I really love, and a new version finally came out.